Yeah, but Mr. Mayor, the zero emission zones seem to be a step beyond the ULEZ. So you've got the T-charge, and then you've got the ULEZ, and then you've got the zero emission zones that you say might come in from 2025. Now, in 2025, not all...
So in the town centres?
In town centres from 2020, and central London, zero emission zone from 2025, yeah. But so even in 2020 and 2025, not all taxis will have converted to being zero emission capable. So will you be giving an exemption for taxis so that they don't have to pay any charge until they roll round in their 15-year cycle? Because, you know, taxis, there's a 15-year lifetime in the licence of a taxi. So someone who perhaps bought a diesel Euro 6 engine taxi in 2017 won't have to change until 2032 because there's a 15 years life on that. Will you be giving an exemption to those taxis to drive in the proposed zero emission zones so that they're not financially penalised?
No, there aren't plans to. The zero emission zones for central London is 2025. That's 7 years away.
But there'll still be some taxis after 2025 which will be Euro 6 diesel.
You'll be aware that the ultra-low emission zone for the C-charge area begins in 2019, which includes that central London. And so I'm optimistic by the time in the future when you've got more low emission zones, zero emission zones, many of the taxis will have changed to the zero emission capable taxis. We're seeing already a huge appetite from the taxi trade. The announcement from the government, which I welcomed in relation to road tax assists as well, in relation to how they're categorised. And we need to give more carrots to black taxi drivers to move away from harmful diesels to cleaner forms of taxis which do exist.
Mr. Mayor, I would challenge the fact that there's been a huge uptake of zero emission taxis. I mean, I think it's less than 1,000, much, you know, just a few hundred. Interest, but in a number of purchases, it's been down in less than 200, I think, so far. And I think you would like to see 9,000 convert within the first 2 years. I very much doubt that's going to happen. And I think the money that you're providing, I think it's about 42 million or something in your fund to help taxi drivers convert to zero emission capable will only fund 9,000. It won't fund a whole fleet of 23,000 taxi drivers. So there will be some financial penalty to taxi drivers unless you give some exemption. So I'm just asking you, have you thought about that? Have you thought about the financial implications of this for taxi drivers?
So I think it's 9,000 in 4 years, by the way, not 2. But the government strategy is published soon. I think it's...
So the government's going to publish its Road to Zero strategy, which is going to set out how the country's going to move to zero emissions. The government has already talked about no more ICE, internal combustion engines, vehicles from 2040. So this is all part of the move to zero emission. So this, as the Mayor has said, you know, these are things that we are starting to set the pace on in London, but we need government to set the regulatory framework and to provide us with the funding and powers to provide the supply chain, manufacturers and so on. The zero emission capable taxi example that the Mayor gave was an example of policy driving a new industry that came, unfortunately, not in London, but is helping our friends in Anstey and Coventry, creating a new taxi that is being sold now internationally, so a whole new industry. So this is going to bring us huge opportunities for the country.
I understand the government might print a paper soon, but I'm asking what you are thinking as Mayor, because you're going to set the policy for charging vehicles in your own zero emission zone. I mean, the government isn't going to say, oh, the Mayor of London is going to do this. That's up to you to say. So I'm just asking you if you've actually thought of how this is going to affect taxi drivers, particularly those who aren't going to move away from having a Euro 6 diesel taxi engine and after 2020 or 2025, because they don't all have to change until 2032.
Well, look, I think councils will designate their town centres zero emission zones. They understand the challenges we face. Central London, we hope to be a zero emission zone as well as in the central part of London. and I think it's really important that we do so. We've deliberately telegraphed our intention to do it some years in advance for the Central London area that you're referring to. The T-charge, we were told there'd be concerns.
But that doesn't answer the question as whether taxi drivers will have any financial penalty, whether you've considered giving them an exemption for the zero emission zones.
So I think we're talking at cross purposes. The charges to pay are for the ultra low emission zone that begins in 2019 in the C charge area, North and South Circular 2021. So I'm not sure what charges you refer to, because those are the charges that already we've announced, and the answer is that we're encouraging taxis to move to zero emission capable. You'll be aware that many taxis are interested in doing so, and we're going to entice and encourage more to do so as well going forward. Diesel vehicles that are old diesel vehicles are toxic and they're polluting. We've got to encourage people to
Well, I was talking about
those.
Euro 6, not the Euro 1 to 5. And Euro 6 don't produce as much pollution as the earlier Euro 5, Euro 4, particularly Euro 1, 2 and 3. I know they're highly polluting, but Euro 6 are much less polluting.
Okay, Euro 6 are ULEZ compliant, so I'm unclear what point you're making.
Yes, I think time's up. I think you asked the same question 7 times in various ways.
Trying to get an answer.